time will come to film because as moms, time is of the essence. We have these like spare moments. So when I get these spare moments to film, I will like make 3 of them in a row from that notepad. But then there's other times, and what's funny is sometimes these videos just do better. I don't know why, but like people just resonate more. It's like when they come to me in that moment and I just like film it in 3 minutes and then I put it up and I like put no, like, I feel like I put no time into it. It's just like so random and then they'll blow up. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today on this episode of Mom Talks with Krista. I'm so excited because I have Jyoti from Mama Jotes on Instagram here today. And I found her like scrolling through reels one day and she has the most hilarious but relatable reels on there. And so I was like, I have to have her on here because she just has this real and raw approach to motherhood. And I think our audience here would just love it. So welcome and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity. I've watched all your videos.
Stop. Keep going. I'm trying to get used to that.
Right. So just to get started, tell us a little bit about you and just kind of what brought you to, I guess, this point of kind of starting your own channel and spreading humor this way.
So I actually started my Instagram page when I was pregnant with my second. I have a background in stand-up comedy and improv and writing. I got my degrees in creative writing. So I was always inclined to push towards entertainment. Took a break to have some babies. I was born and raised in LA, which is why I just think like that's a natural instinct of being born and raised in LA. You're like, I'm going to go into entertainment. But I didn't. I left LA and I live in Chicago now, but I was pregnant with my second. And there's an immense loneliness in motherhood that a lot of people, unless they've experienced it, don't understand. Like it doesn't matter if you're surrounded by an entire village, there's still this like deep loneliness in motherhood. So then I started turning towards Instagram for entertainment and connection. And I wanted to connect with other moms on there. And also I love doing comedy. So naturally I started weaving in comedy to my page, probably like a year after I started it. And yeah, I made so many friends off Instagram. And I always had this like mission to just want to make people smile. I know moms have like we have tough days and we all just want to like at the end of the day just like chill out and smile. So my goal has always been to like bring smiles, and now I've reached an audience a lot more than moms, which is really cool. Like there's people who are like in their early 20s who resonate with some of my content. So I love that I'm able to reach like men, women of all ages. But it did all start with a mom in mind.
That's awesome. I love that. And so where do a lot of your like humor or ideas come from? Like when you go to like plan out a post, are you like planning way in advance? Or you're kind of just like, oh, there's an idea. I'm just going to go ahead and do it.
A little bit of both. I have like an ongoing list of ideas as they come to me. I'll just like jot them into a notepad, and I have this like super long, like I'll take the link of the sound bit or like an idea of a song or whatever, and like write down my caption and everything in this like notepad. And time will come to film because as moms, time is of the essence. We have these like spare moments. So when I get these spare moments to film, I will like make 3 of them in a row from that notepad. But then there's other times, and what's funny is sometimes these videos just do better. I don't know why, but like people just resonate more. It's like when they come to me in that moment and I just like film it in 3 minutes and then I put it up and I like put no, like, I feel like I put no time into it. It's just like so random and then they'll blow up. And I'm like, okay, cool.
You kind of hear that a lot, like, with if being on reels and seeing people on reels that they say like a lot of times, like the ones you put like the least effort and like almost like they resonate with you the most because you don't need to act in it. It's kind of like, this is me, this is real life. And it's almost like people can just resonate with those the most, or it's like, there's like some secret potion to it. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
It's authenticity. Like, I think that when we're not overthinking it and we're not planning it and we're just like, LOL, this is me, I'm being dumb right now. Like I remember one of my first reels to kind of go to have like over 100,000 views was me dancing with my daughter in an ergo baby on my back. And that was literally just like me like learning a dance, but I had to do it with an ergo baby. And that got me my partnership with Ergo Baby, which is insane.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, like, I asked my husband, should I even put this up? Like, it's that kind of video. And then, so there is this like beauty of just coming in real, raw and real. Mm-hmm. And that's what people want to see. That's what people feel connected to.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. I know even the other day I was doing like a story or something, and I always try to make sure, like try to rehearse it kind of in my head and make sure it sounds okay. And I totally like messed up the words. Like I was having a hard day with words. It was hard. And I posted the blooper, and a couple people messaged and they were like, show more of these, like be more like real. And I was like, okay, that's a good point. People want to see what real life
Yeah.
is like, they want to feel connected. So I know we have a couple topics that we want to talk about today that are really important to you. And one was individuality in motherhood and in marriage, and then also mommy wine culture. So let's kind of start with the importance of individuality. So what do you kind of mean by that? And how do you keep that individuality within your marriage and in motherhood?
Yeah, so I know that sometimes in marriage we can kind of get lost in the label of being a wife. I know I did definitely when I got married, and culturally, I'm Indian, I'm Punjabi, and we have like roles. Like we are given like marriage is like a big thing for us. Like it's like you go to school, you go to college, and you get your master's or your professional degree, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and then there's like this timeline and this role. And when it was almost like at 24, I thought that like once I got married, I was done. Like I was like, I'm done doing everything else I've ever wanted to do in life. I need to complete anything, any dream I have or any ambition I have before I get married. So I did lose myself in the role of a wife, which is why I did take this like break from comedy and entertainment. And it took me a while to realize like I'm more than that. Like I'm more than just like a mom and a wife. I love those roles and those parts of my life, but they're just that. They're just parts of me. And so gaining some individuality from being like my husband's wife, which is what I really felt like for a couple years, not because of him in any way, but it was really just what I put on myself and maybe a little bit of like society influence. Honestly, I felt like for the first time, like people were not my parents, but like just like the circle, the Indian aunties and all of them were so proud of me because like I got married. And like before that, I was just like a rebel without a cause talking about blowjobs on stage. And it was like a big thing. Like, oh, wow, Jyoti actually like married a nice guy. Like, this is cool. This whole concept of individuality is like finding that what's yours. Like my thing, yes, my husband does participate now, but when I started this is mine. Like Mama Joe's is my thing. And I know like Eve Rodsky talks about this in her book, Fair Play. She says, find your unicorn space. And I think it's so important because when we don't have this like piece of us, like whether it's new or it's something that you've done your entire life, like dance or anything, and we're not giving ourselves to that a little bit, we kind of lose ourselves in these other roles where we're just caretakers and a part of something else versus just a whole self on our own. Does that make sense?
Totally. No, I can totally relate to that. And I've kind of talked about this before on like my personal channel about how people like when you get married or when you're engaged, people tend to always ask you like, when are you getting married? When are you getting engaged? When are you having a baby? But they don't tend to ask you about like your personal things or how work's going or how your passion project or whatever it is. So I totally, yeah, that made a lot of sense. And I think that's so important what you said about finding your own thing. And those are all pieces of you. You're not just one thing. And this is you, that's it. And you don't have any other time to keep going. So I think that was really important what you said.
Yeah, we're also complex, right? We have all these like different hobbies, and I like to think that all of us are jack of all trades, like, especially moms, like we can do so many things. I know moms who like build and, fresh cabinets out of wood. And and these are all just like, that's our individualities. Like that makes us more than just married and mom, like a married, or like, more than a wife and a mom. And I didn't see that a lot growing up. I didn't see like moms and wives as more than that because I didn't see like hobbies or within my own community and my own culture. So I really want my kids to see that like you can do all of it in a way.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. I think it's definitely changed a lot over the years. Cause yeah, it's like when you grow up, it's like, moms, a lot of times that was their main thing. They didn't have, the other hobbies outside, but like you would see our dads, working or, having other hobbies and stuff. And so I definitely think it's something that's becoming more normalized now, but we can still, do a little bit more and show, others that this is okay. We can all be jack of all trades, like you said, and do different things. And so what are your best like tips for someone that's kind of watching that or listening and they're like, oh my gosh, the way she explained it, like that's me. Like I don't have hobbies anymore. I don't feel like I have a role outside of, motherhood or a wife. So how would you kind of, what tips would you have for someone listening to kind of find their voice or find their space again to kind of feel like them?
I think one of the reasons that sometimes, and this was my reason, was guilt, right? There's this guilt of doing something outside of your family or your kids that's just for you. And we as moms carry that mommy guilt so heavily because we're like, oh, like, even when you like want to be away from your kids, which is totally okay to want to be away from your kids for a while, we still have that like yearning of like, oh my God, like I feel bad. Like, we have the self-talk that, keeps us from wanting or keeps us from that. And I think the first tip would be drop drop the guilt, drop the negative self-talk. And because it is okay to love your kids immensely and want space from your children. Like, and your husband, like you don't have to spend all this time with your spouse. Like it's okay to like be in two separate rooms one night and you just reading a book because that's what you need, without having to feel like, oh, but this is the only time I get to spend with my spouse. It's like, that's okay, but you have to spend time with yourself too. And I think the more you start spending time with yourself and showing yourself self-love and giving yourself self-care, and that doesn't mean like going to massage days or whatever. Literally self-care is like sitting down and having a cup of tea with no kids yelling at you, like that's self-care. And you start finding you start connecting with yourself, and then you find joy. You'll find what you find joyful. That makes sense. Like for me, that was making videos and comedy and connecting with other moms and writing. And, for someone else, that could be like taking a dance class once a week and finding that rhythm again, or taking an improv comedy class, or, just having something that's just yours where the kids and the spouse aren't invited to quite yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I think those are amazing tips, kind of just finding that thing. And even if it's something you've never tried before, just go out there and try it and just see what happens.
See what happens, try it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we also want to talk about mommy wine culture. And so for anyone that's unfamiliar with what this is, can you explain a little bit about what this is and we'll kind of go from there?
Yeah, so I learned a lot over the last year. So mommy wine culture, alcohol has been really advertised to moms, whether it's through gear, merchandise, videos. There's been a lot of like increase of like needing alcohol to get through motherhood. This whole like, you need a glass of wine, like it was a rough day with the kids, versus like, let's process the rough day. There's been a lot of like alcohol for coping in motherhood, and it's been supported, and it's actually become like the norm. Right. Mm-hmm. I fell into it pretty easily. And as someone who was already had a negative relationship with alcohol growing, like in my adolescent years, I was the one who could never like hold my liquor, or like, I would be the one who passed out at the club and things like that. And yeah, it's funny to laugh at now, but like, then I got married and had kids, and I was sober probably back-to-back pregnancies. So I didn't really drink. And then I fell into the mommy wine culture, and it got terrible during pandemic because where were we doing? We were home with our kids, trying to build a platform while purely momming with, just my husband's help. And at the end of every day, I was like, oh, pour the wine. Like, it was like, and I had girlfriends I got it. And then they were like, yeah, girl, get your glass of wine. Like, and it's like, it's supported, but it's not, to me, in my opinion, for me and my story, it wasn't working for me. And I always say for me, because some people can handle it. And it doesn't raise their anxiety, and it doesn't cause them, because mine was like a vicious cycle of anxiety, poor sleep, just from one glass of wine, making me irritable, making me not the best mom that I can be. And it just didn't work out for me. And I'm spreading the word about alcohol culture in general on the Sober Desi, because in my culture and in my community, there aren't enough people talking about it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you bring up an amazing point, because I've even just noticed it within the last few years. Like you'll see like wine glasses or mugs are really geared towards like, like what's it, you don't know what's in here, or, like that secretive, like alcohol to deal with, like you said, like to deal with your kids, or like, oh, as soon as, 4 p.m. hits, it's time, like, you have to deal with, everything. So I think you bring up a really good point about how to make sure, like, see what is working for you. Like if it's a problem, then maybe address the situation and, be able to, pull yourself out of it and be like, okay, what do I actually need right now? Is this actually making me better? Or,
Yeah, I had come to a point where like I could admit that I was dependent on my nightcap, because there was times where I had opened a bottle of wine the night before, had a glass, which was like 8 ounces, not 5 ounces.
Mhm.
And the next night I had no intention to drink. I like didn't even want to drink, but I was like, oh, I already opened the bottle. Like I'll just have a glass. And it was almost like this dependency of having to have the glass. And that's where I kind of had to like step back and be like, whoa, like this can get really bad if I let it keep going. Alcohol was invited everywhere. Like it's invited to play dates. It's invited to the park. It's invited to the zoo in like a disguised cup. It's invited to Disneyland, right? Like this is like normal. Like I hate to use the word normal, but it's what society accepts. They're just like, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're hiding booze to take with our kids to the zoo. Like that's cool. And I never stopped to question it. And now when I look back, I'm like, that seems silly.
Yeah. I know. I was saying to someone recently, I was like, and even like, and this is no shame to like kids' birthday parties, but every time at kids' birthday parties, like there's drinks, there's like an open bar or like, that kind of thing. And I was like, I don't remember that as a kid. Maybe I just didn't notice it, but I don't remember I don't remember people really like, they'd have some drinks, I'm sure, but I don't remember yeah, wine coolers. Yeah. But yeah, it seems so different. Like it's more around like, oh, it's a party for the adults because they have to deal with the kids for the birthday. But I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot.
It's changed, and it's changed a lot this last year. And not everyone, in the end, alcohol is a drug. Whether people want to see it that way or not, it's a widely accepted drug that when you don't use it, you're questioned. It's one of the few drugs that when you don't use it, people are like, why? Like, what's wrong with you? Are you an alcoholic? But it's like, well, I can handle it the way other people can handle it. It didn't benefit me anymore. And did I like lose some friendships or have some friendships go a little more silent? Like, yeah, I did. And does that suck? Yeah, it does. And I don't judge. My husband still drinks alcohol on an occasional basis. Some of my closest friends still drink alcohol. I don't care. Like, I'm not judging you for drinking. I'm saying I had a revelation in my own mind of why it didn't benefit me anymore. Like I didn't want it to be invited to everything. And it was, becoming a main character of my life. I would take it kayaking. Like, it was just one drink, Crystal. Like it wasn't like I was taking an entire bottle of whiskey kayaking. I just took a drink. But it's like I kept asking myself, why? Put water in the kayak, or why not? Like I don't know. I don't drink soda for the health benefits. Why would I drink alcohol?
Right. Yeah. You're like, well, if I'm just bringing, what's the point of even doing it? Like, can I just, enjoy it without?
Yeah, that's the question. Can I enjoy it? And can I handle motherhood without alcohol? And that was the cool thing about this year, is that like, I definitely can. And I think that, yes, was it hard? Were there some days where I was like, God, I just want a glass of wine. I just want to tone this anxiety down. Yeah, but I found other ways to cope that were healthier. Meditation, yoga, Pilates, Netflix binges. All ways to cope.
Yeah, that was actually gonna be my next question of like, when, moms that are kind of feeling like they might be heading that kind of dependency way, or are listening to this and they're kind of worried, like, okay, maybe I should be cutting back. Yeah. What tips would you say? So when you say meditation, yoga, find a good show on Netflix.
Find a sober buddy. I have a sober buddy who is another mom who also found herself going into like a dark abyss. I would also say I keep non-alcoholic beverages around, like those. There's so many non-alcoholic spirit companies now that like mimic alcohol. So there's like rosés, and it's not like alcohol removed. It's like fully made out of like tea. And it tastes like a rosé. It's really amazing. So it's a good like placebo effect for those days where you're like, I just need a drink. I've done that. I've just poured like a non-alcoholic rosé, and it's given me that same like vibe. So I'm like, okay, that's what I wanted. But there's so many other things, and this is what's inspired a lot of people is going sober has given me sober productivity. And all those times I spent a little bit buzzed now are used towards, I don't know, my brain is clearer, my creativity is better. I've grown my audience from 15K to 166K combined. And I wrote a book and I got an agent, and all this happened in the 9 months that I was sober.
That's
And
amazing.
it's something I've been trying to do the entire time. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I think my brain's gotten sharper without alcohol in it. But if you are looking to try to cut back, even moderate your alcohol to like 1 day a week or 2 days, if you have the capacity to do that. I did not. Once I started, I couldn't stop. Follow like sober moms, sober accounts, get inspiration from that, because really what we consume on social media is going to affect us. So when we're consuming videos of mommies like putting the kids aside and opening a bottle of wine, which is a video I totally made a year ago. That's what we're going to resonate with. We're like, oh, yeah, I get it. Like, I'm going to go get, but when we're following accounts that are showing you different ways to cope with motherhood and teaching like, oh, like check out these Netflix shows or these books or go on a walk and try this tea blend, try this mocktail. There's so many other things you could do when you're not drinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exercise helps a lot. Getting those endorphins up and stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. Cause, and that's also a lot easier too, when you're not drinking during the week. Like I've told friends like, so I drink, but I don't drink like a lot, but during the week, like I'm an avid workout in the morning. And even if the older I get, even if I just have one glass of wine, there's mornings where I'm like, it feels like I drank a whole bottle because my head is killing me. And so I'm like, I don't even want to risk it. Like if I know I want to be productive in the morning, I don't even want to take that risk.
That's what it is. It's that one glass. And it's so, because it's people think that you have to have like a major problem with alcohol. Like you have to be considered, an alcoholic or, alcohol, in my opinion, alcoholism is a spectrum. That is not a scientific fact. I just think that there's so many different ways. Like now there's gray area drinking, which is a really big movement that's come along. And Holly, I can't remember her last name. She runs the Tempest, wrote a book called Quit Like a Woman. And that's the book that really sparked my interest in sobriety. It's amazing because she's not, a lot of the sober literature books are about people who had like full on rock bottoms and like were doing like every kind of drug possible. They ruined their entire lives. They had this, inciting incident. But Holly, her book is kind of like, you don't have to hit rock bottom to stop, right? Like you can just stop. It could be for health reasons. It could be, like you said, on the morning, I got like groggy head. I just don't want to feel like that anymore. Oh, I want to be more productive. Oh, I want to like over time kill my liver. Or maybe I am seeing myself getting a little bit dependent and I don't want to get more dependent. There's so many reasons to stop drinking. And I think as a society, we need to stop questioning why people aren't drinking. Like if you're listening to this and you are someone who enjoys to have a beverage or 5 or whatever it might be, and your friend is somebody who doesn't want to have alcohol, stop asking them why and stop offering them alcohol. Like they don't, just like if I said I was gluten free, like give me a non-gluten option.
Exactly. Yeah, you're totally right. Like hit the nail on the head when you said it's the only drug that people actually like ask you like, well, why aren't you? Like, like there's been nights I've gone somewhere where I have to like do something early the next day. So I'm not drinking at all, or I'm driving home. So I'm like, I'm not going to. People are like, well, why? Just have one, like people can't, it's a lot harder for people to understand. Yeah. But what I love about your approach in all this is your like non-judgment approach. Like you kind of understand from all spectrums that there's not like, like you said, people don't have to hit rock bottom. People don't have to be dependent. They might just, they might have a glass of wine and that's okay. And I think it's so important that, like how you just explained all that, being non-judgmental, that, everyone's lifestyle is different and we kind of just have to see what works best for us and then pull ourselves back sometimes and be like, okay, is this a problem or is this okay? Because, I only do it every once in a while or, whatever.
And I think that's really important to ask because I always say compared to my husband who can nurse a beer, my husband can nurse literally one beer with his friends and be completely fine. I've like seen him drunk like once in our entire marriage at a wedding and that was it. And whereas for me, I'm like, I feel like I'm drinking water and I'm chugging and I don't have the same ability. Yes, I do for a moment of time, but over time, the more I drink, I lose that lack of control. And I have pretty good willpower. So it doesn't really come down to willpower. I think it really is like dependency. I mean, it affects people's brains differently. How you drink is going to, and how you are in alcohol is going to be completely different than how I am with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really is this like personal journey and this personal assessment. And you have to look at yourself and be like, okay, am I okay with alcohol? Like, who am I? Am I like an emotional drunk? Do I end up in bad situations? Do I have a lot of alcohol induced trauma? Was I the one who always blacked out? Where am I at today? Am I drinking every day? How does that feel? And so there's this like whole self-assessment, and no one can tell you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
No one. It's always got to come from within, where you're like, maybe I can like take it to just the weekends, or maybe I can stop at like 2 shots versus 5, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. I love that. There's spectrums. Yeah.
Totally.
Awesome. And so as we kind of, end this interview, I always like to end them with fun thinking questions, I call them. So if you could have a billboard made today where you could share one tip with moms everywhere, what would you have it say?
Laugh every day.
I love that. That's awesome. What are your tips for getting people to laugh? Like if they're having like a rough day?
Honestly, I think entertainment was made for a reason. TV's made for a reason. Even if it's like your favorite old episode of Saved by the Bell, like watch it on YouTube. Like I know I love rewatching like some of my favorite scenes from Family Matters, and it's just so funny and nostalgic, and just makes you think of good times. And I think social media is a great place to laugh when you're following the right accounts.
Yes.
And there's some very funny people on TikTok and Instagram and bringing out, and it's really the new entertainment industry. And it's so nice to laugh. And me and my husband laugh over some of these reels. And then, yeah, that's really how we laugh. We just laugh over like video content.
I love that. Yeah.
Video content. So.
Yes, exactly. I know, like laugh like as you're making something, or yeah, I love the nostalgia too. What you said, like I'm a sucker for, I love Saved by the Bell, but like, or Friends. I love all that, like all that stuff.
I made the kids watch the Lizzie McGuire movie. And then at this ending scene, I was bawling. I was crying. So I was like, how has it been so long since this movie came out? I was so nostalgic. And my kids are like, what is she crying about? And I was like, you don't get it. Like, if we add the time that this movie came out to now, you're going to be in college. That's it. We're done.
I'm going to sound like such a dork, but my fiance and I I convinced him to watch Beethoven second. Don't know why. It was one of my favorites as a kid. We watched it and I'm literally crying at the end when they get the puppies back. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, it's just a beautiful moment because they got their dogs back. I don't know.
It reminds you of the first time you watched it. And I think that just like, you remember all of that. So it's a lot.
I know. I could cry thinking about anything. What advice would you give to moms that are in a hard spot right now?
It gets better. I think I've personally been in like very hard spots in my life. I have seasonal affective disorder. I've gone through depression, anxiety. And if I could go back to my own self and just tell myself, like, dude, it gets better. Everything is temporary. Every feeling, every moment, every phase is just temporary. There's going to be a new one in like moments, and then also ask for help wherever you can, whether it's professional help, family help, spouse, a neighbor. Ask for help when you need it. No one's going to judge you or put you down because you need help. Like, we're not meant to do it all. As moms, like, I think that we forget that we're not really superheroes. We're just human, and we're going to have a lot of feelings. And when I need to tag myself out, I find a way to tag myself out. I'm like, I need a break. I'm out. Like, whether it's my husband or my in-laws, and I'm so grateful that I have that kind of support. I don't think we're meant to do it all alone. My parents did it with a village, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing advice. I love it. And of course, what do you have coming up next? Where can everyone find you on Instagram and all that fun stuff?
Oh my God, I have so much happening. So Instagram, Mama Jotes across all platforms. I've been tweeting, which is kind of fun.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I passive aggressively tweet. Like last night, my husband said something, and I was like, unlearning is just as important as learning. Behaviors are learned. Right? Like he was like sitting there, and then I sent him my tweet.
I love that. Passive aggressive tweet and passive aggressive.
I texted him my tweet.
Sounds like something I would do.
Yeah. So, my husband's a psychiatrist, and he thinks I'm hilarious because he's just like, you're ridiculous. So Mama Jotes on all platforms. I have a book that I wrote this year, like I had mentioned, and I'm working on revising it right now, and it is going to be published. I just can't announce all the information yet because they haven't announced all the information yet. And then I'm working on a project to bring to IGTV. I am a little bit like, it's a new realm for me, and I really want to bring it out early next year. So stay tuned for that. That's very mommy centric. And yeah, that's what's going on. Just having fun.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Well, I can't wait for your book. So yeah, whenever you get more details, let me know. I can always put it in the show notes or update the audience as well. Well, awesome. It was so nice meeting you. And this was an awesome conversation, a lot of really important topics. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Have a good weekend.
Hey guys, if you found this or any episode of Mom Talks with Krista helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and of course, share it with your friends. We release new videos every single Wednesday, and our new podcast is out every single Thursday. So lots of different ways you can catch us. And of course, if you're not following us on our socials, go ahead and follow us there. We've got tons of new content for you every single day. And finally, if you're watching this and doubting yourself, you're doing a great job. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.